The couple unabashedly displayed their affection in front of their son, leaving him visibly annoyed. "Show off your love, and you'll end it quickly." Sure enough, tragedy struck out of nowhere. A flying arrow pierced the wife's throat. It turned out this family of 4, who appeared to be on a road trip in their RV. Along their journey, they not only killed people, but also cannibalized their victims for pleasure. One day, as the family was grilling human flesh, Billy and his brother-in-law Vern happened to pass by their campsite. They were searching for their cousin. Keith, the father, lied that they were just passing through and hadn't seen any strangers. In reality, Paul had already been served his dinner. At this point, the daughter, Amy, appeared, instantly catching Billy's attention as he stared at her, captivated. After exchanging brief pleasantries, Billy and Vern drove off, but the family soon encountered them again on the road. This time, Vern was holding a gun, causing the family to panic. He explained that their car had broken down and asked for help while Billy went to town for repairs. Though Kathleen hesitated, Keith agreed. Billy happily played word games with the younger son, Jeffrey, unaware that his life was nearing its end. He mentioned his home was along the roadside and over 80 years old. He lived with his great-uncle after his family had died years ago, leaving only him, Paul, and 2 cousins, one of whom was a sharpshooter. Billy invited them to his home, promising hospitality from his great-uncle. As Billy played a crossword game with the family, Jeff suddenly attacked him from behind, stabbing him with 2 knives. Kathleen scolded her son for acting too quickly and dirtying the car, while she directed Amy to clean up. The family worked efficiently, dismembering Billy's body and storing it in the fridge. They even treated Amy to Billy's eyeballs as dessert, though the boy protested, sparking a brief scuffle between the siblings. When Billy's phone rang, Keith snapped it in half and urged the family to clean up quickly so they wouldn't keep their next victims waiting. Later, the family, pretending to be stranded, arrived at the isolated home of Billy's relatives, where his cousin warmly welcomed them, unaware of the looming danger. Keith fabricated a story about their RV breaking down and mentioned meeting Billy earlier. The elderly great-uncle explained that the house had no landline due to its remote location, and the only phone available was Billy's, which wasn't present. The situation took a turn when her cousin Big Mac arrived with a sledgehammer, prompting the family to momentarily hide their weapons. Meanwhile, Vern left a voicemail on Billy's phone, unaware of the tragedy that had befallen him. As he waited, the sheriff arrived, and Vern lied that Billy had hitched a ride with some kind strangers from Los Angeles. The sheriff, who was also searching for Paul, soon left, leaving Vern to suddenly vomit. It turned out he had eaten poisoned chocolate given to him by the family's young boy back at the old house. The boy offered more poisoned chocolate to the unsuspecting relatives. The great-uncle refused, but Julie and Big Mac each took one. While Amy was using the restroom, she accidentally dropped Billy's eyeball on the floor. After dinner, Savannah played an impressive piano piece. The old man gave the master bedroom to Keith and his wife, while Jeff stayed in Billy's room. Savannah told her great-uncle that something seemed off about the guests, but the old man thought she was overthinking it. Keith instructed Jeff to wait for a signal before making a move. Back in her room, Savannah discovered that Amy had a phone and was talking to her girlfriend. It turned out Amy was a tomboy. Savannah offered to let Amy have the room and sleep on the couch herself, but Amy wanted to share the room with her. Meanwhile, Big Mac began vomiting. He went outside to vomit as well, but became so weak he could barely stand. Jeff approached him from behind. Due to the difference in strength, he struggled to overpower Big Mac. Jeff quickly strangled him with a rope. Keith sneaked into the old man's room, and moments later, Big Mac succumbed. Keith called Jeff into the house and handed him the old man's tongue as a reward. Meanwhile, Amy was preparing to strike. When she pulled out her knife, she accidentally bumped into Savannah, causing her to fall off the bed and the knife to pierce her own thigh. Savannah offered to help bandage the wound, but Amy yanked the knife out and tried to attack her again. Savannah went to a small storage room to find a first aid kit and suddenly heard noises outside. She saw the RV parked nearby and spotted Kathleen and Keith cleaning blood off their sleeves. After they left, she snuck into the RV and found Billy's hat. At the same time, Julie, still vomiting, accidentally found the eyeball Amy had dropped. She then discovered Pa's lifeless body in the bathroom. Terrified, she sat on the floor in shock. As she prepared to strike, an arrow suddenly shot through her neck, killing her instantly. The sight of his wife's death left Keith momentarily stunned until Amy shoved him hard. Furious, Amy blamed him for his obsession, which had ultimately killed her mother. Regaining his composure, Keith realized that Savannah, who should have returned to the house, had instead been seen sneaking around the front. Keith tied up Julie to use her as bait. He tortured her by cutting her face and then breaking one of her fingers to make her screams louder, hoping to draw Savannah out. Savannah, hearing Julie's cries, and grabbed Amy's phone to call the police. Meanwhile, Jeff began slowly approaching her. On another front, the sheriff received a report about a call made from a Los Angeles number. He remembered Vern's mention of picking up Billy and leaving in an RV from Los Angeles. Keith shouted aggressively, giving Savannah only 30 seconds to show herself. If she didn't, he threatened to kill Julie. As soon as the words fell, Savannah entered, holding Jeff hostage. Under Keith's threat, she was forced to release Jeff, who then began pouring gasoline around the house. Meanwhile, Savannah was tied up as well. Keith started cooking a tongue and then brought out one of the Mac's severed hands, eating it right in front of the two captives. Suddenly, he cut off one of Julie's thumbs and handed it to Savannah, who was forced to put it into her mouth. Savannah secretly freed herself from the ropes and swiftly stabbed a fork into Keith's eye. Amy reacted quickly and lunged at Savannah, leading to a violent struggle. Keith pulled the fork out of his eye and, disturbingly, ate some of his own tissue. At this moment, Vern burst into the house. Hearing gunfire, Jeff, who was preparing to ignite the gasoline, ran back inside. In the end, Keith drove a knife into Vern's skull, while Savannah snapped Jeff's neck. Julie then swung a hammer at Keith, believing the ordeal was finally over. However, Amy, who had regained consciousness, attacked Julie from behind. Savannah engaged in another brutal fight with Amy and eventually grabbed the hammer. Instead of killing Amy outright, she decided to torture her slowly. Terrified, Amy scrambled to escape and ran outside. Just as Savannah pursued him, the sheriff suddenly shot her in the head, killing her instantly. Ironically, Amy was now perceived as the victim. The sheriff helped him into his car, but just as he did, a scream rang out. Cautiously, the sheriff grabbed his gun and went to investigate. In the next moment, Amy started the RV, put on Billy's hat, and drove away as the house erupted into flames. Don't forget to subscribe to Fortune Cinema. See you in the next episode.